The photograph was never meant for his eyes. Ella Bennett stared at her phone screen, watching 3 dots pulse beneath the image she'd just sent. Someone was typing. Someone who absolutely should not have received that picture. The photo itself wasn't scandalous. Just her in a red dress she'd bought for her sister's engagement party, twirling in her tiny Brooklyn apartment, hair loose and wild, a genuine smile lighting up her face. She'd meant to send it to Sarah for approval. Instead, her trembling fingers had tapped the wrong contact. Dominic Castellano, her boss, the man who ran the most powerful Italian-American crime family in New York, from behind the legitimate facade of Castellano Imports. No, 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 Ella whispered. She'd only been working as his executive assistant for 3 months, hired because her late father had once done business with the Castellano family. It was supposed to be simple, managing schedules, handling paperwork, staying invisible. Her phone buzzed. Wrong number, Miss Bennett. 3 words. Cold, professional. Exactly what she'd expect from a man whose reputation preceded him like a shadow. A man known for his ice-cold demeanor, his sharp mind, and his absolute control over everything in his territory. Ella's hand shook as she typed back, "I apologize, Mr. Castellano. It won't happen again." She threw her phone onto her bed and pressed her palms against her heated cheeks. Tomorrow morning, she'd have to walk into his office, look him in the eye, and pretend this never happened. Sleep didn't come that night. The next morning, Ella arrived at Castellano Imports 15 minutes early, wearing her most conservative black suit, armor against humiliation. The building was a study in contrasts, legitimate import business on the lower floors, but everyone knew the real power resided in the penthouse where Dominic conducted his other affairs. "Morning, Ella." Marcus, the security guard, greeted her with his usual warm smile. "Boss is already upstairs. Came in at 6. Of course he did. Dominic Castellano probably didn't sleep, too busy running an empire that stretched from the docks to the Diamond District. Ella rode the elevator to the executive floor, her stomach churning. When the doors opened, she stepped into the sleek reception area and headed straight for her desk, hoping to avoid Miss Bennett. The voice stopped her mid-step, deep, controlled, with just a hint of Italian heritage running through it like dark wine. Ella turned slowly to find Dominic standing in his office doorway. At 35, he was devastatingly handsome in the way dangerous men often were, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. His suit was impeccable, probably worth more than her monthly rent, but it was his eyes that caught her, dark as midnight, currently fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Good morning, Mr. Castellano," she managed, proud her voice didn't shake. "My office, now." He disappeared inside, leaving her no choice but to follow. Dominic's office was exactly like him, powerful, controlled, expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan, dark wood furniture, leather chairs, everything in its place, nothing left to chance. He stood behind his massive desk, hands in his pockets, watching her with that unreadable expression he always wore. "About last night," Ella started. "I want to apologize." "Tell me, Miss Bennett," he interrupted, his voice quiet but commanding. "Do you make it a habit of sending personal photographs to your employer?" "No, sir. It was an accident. I meant to send it to my sister and yet, you sent it to me." He moved around the desk, each step deliberate. "Do you know what I thought when I received that picture?" Ella's mouth went dry. "I can imagine you thought it was inappropriate." "I thought," he continued, stopping a few feet away from her, "that it was the first time I'd seen you smile like that. Really smile. Not the polite, professional smile you wear in this office, but genuine joy." She blinked, caught off guard. What? "In 3 months, Miss Bennett, you've been the model of professionalism. Efficient, punctual, invisible." His dark eyes studied her face. "But that photograph showed me something different. Someone different." Ella didn't know what to say. This wasn't the reprimand she'd expected. However, his tone shifted, becoming businesslike again. "I deleted it, as I'm sure you'd prefer. We'll consider the matter closed." Relief flooded through her. "Thank you, Mr. Castellano." You're welcome. Now I need the Henderson files on my desk in 20 minutes. We have a meeting with the dock supervisors at 10. Ella nodded quickly and turned to leave, desperate to escape the strange tension in the room. Miss Bennett? She paused at the door, looking back. Dominic had returned to his desk, but his eyes were still on her, holding something she couldn't quite read. Red is definitely your color. Before she could respond, he looked down at his papers, dismissing her. Ella fled to her desk, her heart pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with embarrassment anymore. What she didn't know, couldn't know, was that Dominic Castellano had lied. He hadn't deleted the photo. It was still on his phone, and he'd looked at it 7 times since last night, each time wondering why this particular woman had managed to crack something in the ice around his heart. And in the dangerous world he inhabited, that crack could be fatal. 3 days passed before the carefully maintained professional distance between them shattered completely. Ella was organizing shipping manifests when Tyler Chen walked into the reception area. Tyler was a new analyst in their legitimate operations, fresh out of business school with an easy smile and the kind of confidence that came from never having faced real danger. Ella, right? Tyler leaned against her desk with casual familiarity. I've been meaning to introduce myself properly. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime. I'd love to hear how you ended up working for the infamous Mr. Castellano. Ella looked up from her work, offering a polite smile. That's kind of you, but I'm pretty swamped. Come on, just coffee. What's the worst that could happen? Tyler's grin widened. Unless you're afraid the boss will get jealous. Miss Bennett. Dominic's voice cut through the air like a blade. He stood in his office doorway, his expression cold enough to frost the windows. I need those manifests. Now. Of course, Mr. Castellano. Ella gathered the papers quickly. Dominic's gaze shifted to Tyler, and Ella watched the younger man physically recoil. Chen, don't you have quarterly projections due by end of day? Yes, sir, I was just... Then I suggest you get back to work. Time is money in this company. The words were professional, but the threat underneath was unmistakable. Tyler practically fled. Inside Dominic's office, Ella set the manifests on his desk. That was a bit harsh. He was just being friendly. Friendly. Dominic repeated the word like it tasted bitter. Is that what we're calling it? What would you call it? A waste of your time and mine. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the enclosed space. You're here to work, Miss Bennett, not to entertain eager analysts who think they can impress you with coffee invitations. Ella crossed her arms. With all due respect, sir, who I have coffee with is my business. Something dangerous flashed in Dominic's eyes. Everything that happens in my organization is my business, including which of my employees are distracted from their duties by inappropriate workplace relationships. One conversation doesn't constitute a relationship. No, Dominic agreed, his voice dropping lower. But I've seen how men look at you, Miss Bennett, like you're something they can possess, like you're not already... He stopped abruptly. Not already what? Ella challenged, her heart racing. Dominic was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, see the tension in his jaw. Off limits. I don't belong to anyone, Mr. Castellano. Don't you? His hand came up, almost touching her face, before he caught himself and dropped it. That photograph you sent me, I lied about deleting it. Ella's breath caught. What? I've looked at it every night since you sent it, trying to understand why you, of all people, have gotten under my skin. Why the thought of Tyler Chen or anyone else touching you makes me want to do very violent things. Mr. Castellano. Dominic, he corrected. When we're alone, you call me Dominic. This is inappropriate, Ella whispered, even as she leaned closer. Extremely. His thumb brushed her cheek, the touch electric. But I stopped caring about appropriate the moment you smiled in that red dress. Before either could close the remaining distance, Dominic's phone rang. He stepped back immediately, his mask sliding back into place as he answered. What is it? Ella watched his expression change, becoming harder, colder. When he hung up, the moment between them had evaporated. There's been an incident. Marco was shot. Dominic was already moving, grabbing his jacket. Stay in the office. Don't leave until I send someone to escort you home. Is Marco okay? He's alive, for now. Dominic paused at the door. And Ella? Stay away from Tyler Chen. That's not a request. Then he was gone, leaving Ella alone with her racing heart and the knowledge that whatever was happening between them had just become infinitely more complicated. What she didn't know was that Marco's shooting was just the beginning. A war was coming, and she was about to be caught directly in its crossfire. The call came at 2 a.m. Miss Bennett. The voice was unfamiliar, professional, cold. Mr. Castellano requests your presence at Manhattan General Hospital. A car is waiting downstairs. Ella threw on jeans and a sweater, her mind racing. Hospital. Something had happened. Someone was hurt. The black SUV idling outside her building confirmed this wasn't a joke. Manhattan General's private wing was where the wealthy and powerful went when they wanted discretion. Ella was led through a side entrance, past security that didn't ask questions, to an elevator that required a key card. Inside the hospital room, Marco Santini lay in bed, his shoulder bandaged, his usual cocky smile replaced with a grimace of pain. Dominic stood by the window, still wearing last night's suit, looking like he hadn't slept. When Ella entered, his head snapped toward her, relief flashing across his features before his mask slammed back. You came, he said unnecessarily. You sent a very cryptic message at 2 a.m. What was I supposed to do? Ella's eyes moved to Marco. What happened? Rival family getting ambitious, Marco said, his voice strained. The Volkovs, Russian mob trying to move into our territory. They thought putting a bullet in me would send a message. 2 bullets, Dominic corrected sharply. And you're lucky they missed anything vital. Ella moved closer to Marco's bed, her instinct to help overriding her fear. Are they treating you properly? What did the doctors say about infection risk? Marco blinked, surprised. You worried about me, sweetheart? I'm worried about anyone who's been shot, she replied, but her hand gently adjusted his IV line, which had been kinked. Even reckless underbosses. Marco laughed, then winced. I like her, Dom. She's got spine. I know, Dominic said quietly, his eyes on Ella. That's the problem. Ella turned to face him. Why am I here, Dominic? You told me to stay at the office, to stay safe. A hospital where someone just got shot doesn't seem safe. Because Marco asked for you, Dominic said, his jaw tight. And because I needed to see that you were all right. I'm fine. I wasn't the one who got shot. Not yet, Dominic said, so quietly she almost missed it. The words hung in the air like a threat. Ella felt ice slide down her spine. What does that mean? Marco and Dominic exchanged a look. Finally, Marco spoke. The Volkovs do their homework. They know everyone connected to us, including you. Me? Ella's voice rose. I'm just an assistant. You're the boss's personal assistant, Marco interrupted. They know your name, where you live, probably your coffee order. It's how this world works. Information is currency. Ella looked at Dominic, whose expression had gone completely cold. Is that why you wanted me here? To tell me I'm a target? You're not a target, Dominic said flatly. Because I won't allow it. But you need protection until this situation is resolved. Protection meaning what, exactly? Meaning you move to a secure location. Meaning bodyguards. Meaning you don't go anywhere without clearance from me. His voice brooked no argument. I've already had arrangements made. Ella's temper flared. You can't just decide where I live. I can, and I did. Dominic crossed the space between them. Your father worked for my family for 15 years. When he died, my father promised to look after his daughters. That responsibility fell to me. And I take care of what's mine. I'm not yours. Ella shot back. Dominic's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. Aren't you? Because from where I'm standing, you've been mine since the moment you sent me that picture. Since I realized I'd burn down half this city to keep you safe. Marco cleared his throat. Maybe take this somewhere private? Dominic didn't break eye contact with Ella. Come with me. In a private consultation room down the hall, Dominic rounded on her the moment the door closed. Do you understand what you've become? What you are to me? A liability. Ella said, her voice shaking. Someone you have to protect because of some promise to my dead father. No. Dominic grabbed her shoulders, firmly but not roughly. You're the woman I can't stop thinking about, the one who makes me question everything I've built, the one who's somehow become more important than my own safety. Then let me go, she whispered. Fire me, send me away. I can't. The admission seemed torn from him. I've tried to push you away, to keep this professional. But then you adjust Marco's IV without being asked, or you challenge me in my own office, and I remember why I can't let you go. This is insane. You're a criminal, he finished. A killer. A man who's done things you can't imagine. I know what I am, Ella, but I will protect you with everything I have. The question is whether you can accept that. Before she could answer, his phone rang. Dominic's expression changed as he listened, becoming harder, colder. When? A pause. How many? Another pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Double the guards on Marco's room. He hung up and turned to Ella. We need to leave. Now. What happened? The Volkovs just hit one of our warehouses. 3 of my men are dead. His voice was ice. This isn't a message anymore. It's war. They moved quickly through the hospital, Dominic's hand on her lower back, his body between her and any potential threat. In the parking garage, an armored SUV waited with 2 men Ella didn't recognize, both clearly armed. This is Tony and Vincent, Dominic said curtly. Your protection detail. The drive took them out of Manhattan into Westchester County. They pulled up to a sprawling estate surrounded by high walls and security cameras. The gates opened automatically. Where are we? Ella asked. Castellano compound, my family's home. He led her inside, through marble hallways, into a wing that seemed more modern. These will be your rooms. You'll be safe here. The suite was larger than her entire apartment. Bedroom, sitting room, bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. Beautiful, luxurious, and a gilded cage. How long? Ella asked. Until it's safe. That's not an answer. Dominic turned to face her. I don't know how long this will take or how bad it will get. All I know is you're here, where I can protect you. And what about you? Ella asked softly. Who protects you? Something flickered in his eyes. I don't need protection. Everyone needs protection, Dominic, even mob bosses. He stepped closer, cupping her face. Is that what you see when you look at me? Ella covered his hand with hers. I see a man trying to keep everyone safe, who carries impossible weight, who looks at me like I'm something precious. She paused. And yes, I see a mob boss, but maybe that doesn't scare me as much as it should. It should terrify you. Too late, Ella whispered. He kissed her then, fierce and claiming, his hand sliding into her hair. This was pure need, desperation unleashed. Ella kissed him back with equal fervor, pulling him closer. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic pressed his forehead to hers. This changes everything. I know. I need to handle the warehouse situation. But Ella, don't leave these rooms without Tony or Vincent. And if something happens, there's a panic button by the bed. The reality crashed over her. This wasn't romance. This was real danger. Dominic, I'm scared. Good, he said grimly. Fear will keep you careful, keep you alive. He kissed her once more. I'll be back tonight, and then we need to talk about what happens next. After he left, Ella received a text from an unknown number. Stay away from Dominic Castellano if you value your life. The Volkovs don't miss twice. Ella stared at the threatening text, her blood turning cold. She should tell Tony or Vincent, should tell Dominic. But something held her back. Pride, stubbornness, fear that showing weakness would confirm she didn't belong here. She deleted the message. The suite felt smaller by the hour. Around 8, Tony knocked. Miss Bennett, dinner's ready downstairs. I can eat in my room. Boss says you eat in the dining room, Vincent interrupted. Says you're not a prisoner, you're a guest. The distinction felt thin. Ella followed them to a formal dining room that could seat 20. Only one place was set. An older woman emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. She had kind eyes and gray hair. Finally, someone to cook for besides these animals. I'm Martha. Been taking care of Castellano men for 30 years. Sit. You're too thin. I'm really not. Sit, Martha repeated with authority. Within minutes, plates appeared. Pasta, fresh bread, roasted vegetables. Dominic called, said to make sure you eat. He wasn't wrong. Ella's stomach growled. Thank you, Martha. Thank me by eating, and by being good for that boy. Martha's eyes softened. He needs someone good, someone who sees past all this. I'm just his assistant. Martha laughed knowingly. I've worked for this family long enough to know when a Castellano man is smitten. And Dominic looks at you the way his father looked at his mother. After Martha left, raised voices echoed from deeper in the house. Italian, rapid and furious. Tony appeared. Everything's fine, Miss Bennett. Family discussion. Sounds like an argument. With this family, same thing. Tony's expression was neutral. You should finish eating. But Ella's curiosity won. Where is he? Tony and Vincent exchanged glances. Finally, Vincent shrugged. Your funeral. Down that hall, third door on the left. Ella followed the voices to a heavy door. Through it, she could hear Dominic speaking rapid Italian, his tone cutting. Another voice responded, older, equally authoritative. Then a woman's voice, sharp and angry. Ella knocked. The voices stopped. Footsteps approached, and the door opened to reveal Dominic, tie loosened, looking exhausted. Behind him, an older man, his father, clearly, and a woman in her 60s wearing diamonds. Ella. Dominic's surprise was evident. You should be upstairs. I heard shouting. Wanted to make sure you were all right. The older man's eyebrows rose. He said something in Italian that made Dominic's jaw tighten. English, Papa, Dominic said curtly. I said, his father replied, accent thick, that this must be the girl Marco won't shut up about, the one who's got my son tied in knots. The woman, Dominic's mother, studied Ella with sharp eyes. She's pretty enough, but is she strong enough for this life? Mama, Dominic warned. Fair question, Dominic. His mother circled Ella like a predator. You bring a girl here during a war with the Volkovs. That tells me she matters. But does she understand what that means? Ella lifted her chin, meeting the older woman's gaze. It means I'm a target, because of who Dominic is. It means people might try to hurt me to hurt him. It means living with fear and guards. She paused. And yes, Mrs. Castellano, I understand exactly what that means. The question is whether your son understands what he's asking of me. Silence fell. Then Dominic's father laughed, booming. She's got fire. I like her. Can I speak to Ella alone now? Dominic asked. After they left, he closed the door and leaned against it. I'm sorry. My mother has no filter. They were discussing me, Ella said. They were discussing whether it's smart to keep you here, whether you're a liability. He looked at her. I told them you're neither. You're just necessary. Necessary? How romantic. Romance has nothing to do with this. Dominic crossed to her. This is survival. Me trying to keep you alive while managing a war. Then let me go. No. The word was absolute. You know what I found at the warehouse? 3 of my men, dead. And a message spray-painted on the wall. Castellano's queen is next. His hands gripped her shoulders. They know about you. They know you matter. Ella's breath caught. Queen. It's what they're calling you. Word spreads fast. The boss is protecting someone, keeping her at the compound. That means she's important. His grip loosened. That makes you incredibly valuable to my enemies. So I hide here forever? Until I end this. His dark eyes bored into hers. However long that takes. Ella stepped back. And what happens to us in the meantime? I don't know, Dominic admitted. I've never done this before. Cared about someone outside the family. Wanted someone badly enough to risk everything. He moved closer. You terrify me, Ella Bennett. Or maybe I make you stronger, Ella whispered. In my world, caring about someone gets them killed. Then change your world. Dominic laughed bitterly. If only it were that simple. He pulled her closer. I should send you away, somewhere far, with enough money to start over. But you won't. No, because I'm selfish enough to want you here. His lips brushed her temple. Even if it's the worst decision I've ever made. Ella's arms went around him. What if it's the best decision? Then we're both fools. They stood like that, finding comfort despite the danger. Finally, Dominic pulled back. It's late. I should walk you to your rooms. Stay with me, Ella said impulsively. At his raised eyebrow, she clarified. Not like that. Just stay. Talk to me. Something shifted in his expression. You matter, more than you should. Then prove it. Stop treating me like I might break. I know you won't break. That's part of the problem. But he didn't argue when she took his hand. In her suite, Dominic shed his jacket and tie. Ella curled on the couch, and after hesitation, he sat beside her. Tell me about your father, Ella said softly. Dominic was quiet. Antonio Castellano was a businessman, a leader, ruthless. But he believed in honor, in protecting family. He paused. Heart attack 3 years ago. Left me everything. Do you regret it? Taking over. Every day, and never. His hand found hers. This life isn't chosen. It chooses you. They talked for hours, about her childhood, about his complicated relationship with his brother who died in a territory war, about abandoned dreams. Slowly, Ella saw past the mob boss to the man underneath. I should go, Dominic finally said, though he didn't move. Let you rest. Or you could stay. He hesitated, then nodded. Just to sleep. They moved to the bedroom. When Ella emerged from the bathroom in sleep clothes, she found him by the window, looking out. What are you thinking? She asked. How many ways this could go wrong? He turned. How none of that seems to matter when I look at you. They climbed into bed, and after awkwardness, Dominic pulled her against him. Ella felt safer than she had in days. Ella? His voice was rough in the darkness. Yes? If something happens to me, you run. You don't try to be brave. You just run. Isabella turned to face him. I'm not running. Ella, I'm not running, she repeated firmly. You don't get to pull me into your world then ask me to abandon you. We protect each other, or this doesn't work. Dominic caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. You're going to be the death of me, or the saving of you, Ella whispered. He kissed her then, slow and deep. When they broke apart, Ella tucked herself against his chest. Neither knew that while they slept, betrayal was already in motion, one that would test everything and force impossible choices. Ella woke to an empty bed and a note. Had to handle business. Stay inside. Back tonight. D. She crumpled the note, frustration bubbling. 3 days trapped here, 3 days of guards and locked doors. After showering, Ella found Martha in the kitchen. Morning, dear. You look better, more rested. Ella felt her cheeks warm, wondering if Martha knew Dominic had stayed. I slept well. I'm sure you did. Martha's knowing smile confirmed she knew everything. Sit. I'll make breakfast. While Martha cooked, Ella's phone buzzed. Her sister Sarah's name flashed. Soph, is everything okay? That's what I should ask you. Sarah's voice was sharp with worry. You haven't answered in 3 days. I went by your apartment. It's empty. What's happening? Ella's heart sank. She'd forgotten to reassure her sister. I'm fine. I just had to relocate. Because of him? Because of Dominic Castellano? Sarah's voice rose. I did research. Do you know what kind of man he is? I know exactly what he is. Then why are you still there? Because I'm falling in love with him, Ella thought but didn't say. It's complicated. Complicated? These are dangerous people. Criminals. Sophia paused. Oh my God, you're sleeping with him. Sarah, you are. Ella, what are you thinking? I'm thinking, Ella said carefully, aware Martha was pretending not to listen, that sometimes life doesn't give you safe choices. Sometimes you have to decide what risk is worth taking. And he's worth risking your life? Ella thought about Dominic's hands gentle on her face, his vulnerability, the way he held her. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Sarah was quiet. I can't lose you. You're all the family I have left. You won't lose me. I promise. Even as she said it, Ella wondered if it was a promise she could keep. After hanging up, Ella sat at the counter, picking at eggs. Her old life felt distant, her apartment, her routine, safety. Now she was in a compound, protected by armed guards, involved with a man whose enemies wanted her dead. You're thinking too much, Martha observed. It makes wrinkles. I'm thinking about how I got here. How one accidental text changed everything. The best things often start with accidents. Martha laughed. Sometimes fate knows better than we do. Or sometimes fate is just chaos pretending to have a plan. Before Martha could respond, raised voices erupted from the front. Not angry, urgent, fearful. Ella was on her feet immediately, Martha's warning to stay ignored as she rushed toward the commotion. In the foyer, Dominic stood surrounded by his men, all armed, all looking grim. Blood stained Dominic's shirt, not his own, Ella realized with relief. What happened? She demanded, pushing through. Dominic's head snapped toward her, expression furious. I told you to stay in your rooms. And I told you I'm not a prisoner. What happened? Ambush, Marco said, appearing from the hallway, arm still in a sling. Hit us on the way back from the docks. 3 cars, automatic weapons. They were waiting. Ella's blood ran cold. Casualties? 2 wounded, none dead, this time. Dominic's jaw was tight. But they got close, too close. How did they know where you'd be? Ella asked. The silence was deafening. Dominic's eyes swept over his assembled men. Everyone out except family. The soldiers dispersed, leaving only Marco, Dominic's father Antonio, and Dominic. We have a leak, Antonio said bluntly. Someone inside is feeding information to the Volkovs. Impossible, Marco protested. Everyone here has been with us for years. Someone isn't, Dominic said coldly. And until we figure out who, nobody is above suspicion. Ella felt the weight of those words. Nobody. That included her, the newest addition, the outsider. You should go upstairs, Dominic said to her, tone making it clear it wasn't a suggestion. If there's a traitor, I want to help find them. This isn't your concern. It is if they're trying to kill you. Ella crossed her arms. I'm part of this now. Either include me or lock me up, but stop treating me like I'm helpless. Antonio chuckled. She's got spine. Reminds me of your mother, Dominic. That's not a compliment, Dominic muttered, but conflict showed in his eyes, the desire to protect her warring with respect for her strength. Fine, he finally said. But you stay close to me. No wandering off. Understood? Understood. The next hours were tense as Dominic conducted interrogations, reviewed security footage, traced communication records. Ella watched, fascinated and horrified by the methodical way he dismantled his organization looking for rot. Late afternoon, the break came. One security team member, a man named Vincent who'd been with the family for 8 years, had made 3 calls to an untraceable number in the past week. When confronted, he'd tried to run. They caught him at the compound gates. Ella watched from Dominic's office window as Vincent was dragged back inside, struggling. Part of her wanted to look away. Part of her couldn't. You don't need to see this, Dominic said quietly, appearing beside her. What will you do to him? What needs to be done? Will you kill him? Dominic was silent. Do you want the comfortable lie or the truth? The truth. Yes, he betrayed the family. That's a death sentence in our world. He turned her to face him. Does that change how you see me? Ella thought about it, really thought. She could be horrified, could let this be the moment she ran, but she'd seen the bodies, seen the blood. This wasn't a game. This was survival. No, she finally said. It doesn't. It should, maybe, but it doesn't. Something in Dominic's expression shifted. Surprise, relief. maybe love. You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both. He kissed her then, hard and desperate. When they broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. I need to handle Vincent. Stay here. Don't come downstairs no matter what you hear. Dominic, please, Ella. This is where I draw the line. You don't need that darkness in your head. After he left, Ella paced, trying not to imagine what was happening in the basement. Her phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. Vincent was just the beginning. We have others inside. Your prince can't protect you from what's coming. Ella's hands shook as she screenshot the message and forwarded it to Dominic. Within seconds, her door burst open. Dominic stood there, expression thunderous. Where did this come from? I don't know. They've been texting me since I got here. And you didn't tell me? His voice was dangerously quiet. I didn't want to seem weak. Weak? Dominic crossed the space in 2 strides. Ella, these people are threatening you, and you thought telling me would make you seem weak? You have enough to worry about. You are not a burden. The words came out raw. You're the only good thing in this nightmare, and if something happened to you because you were too proud to ask for help? He couldn't finish. Ella touched his face. I'm sorry, I should have told you. Dominic pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. No more secrets. I can't protect you if you're hiding things. No more secrets. Ella agreed. The answer would come sooner than either expected, in a form that would shake everything they were building. Vincent's interrogation revealed 3 other informants inside the Castellano organization. By midnight, all had been identified and dealt with. Ella didn't ask for details. Some things she was content not knowing. What she did know was the compound was on lockdown, everyone sleeping in shifts, weapons visible. The war with the Volkovs had escalated from territorial dispute to existential threat. They're getting desperate, Marco explained over breakfast. He'd insisted on eating with Ella and Dominic. Going after us this hard, burning through informants, means they're trying to end this quickly. Or they know something we don't, Dominic replied, expression grim. Ella pushed eggs around her plate, appetite gone. What happens if they win? They won't, Dominic said with certainty. But if they did? Dominic set down his fork. Then a lot of people die, including probably me. The Volkovs don't believe in half measures. They'd eliminate every Castellano, every ally, every person who ever worked for us. He paused meaningfully. Everyone connected to us. The implication hung heavy. Ella forced herself to meet his gaze. So we make sure they don't win. We. Marco raised an eyebrow. Since when did you become part of the strategy team? Since I stopped being just the assistant, Ella replied. I'm involved whether I want to be, so I might as well be useful. Dominic studied her. You know about your father's work for us, but do you know the specifics? He handled accounting, financial management. He did more. He created shell companies, offshore accounts, legitimate fronts that kept our real operations hidden. He built the financial infrastructure that made the Castellano Empire possible. Dominic leaned forward. After he died, we had 3 different accountants try to take over. None could figure out half of what he'd built. Ella's pulse quickened. What are you saying? Your father left documentation, codes, passwords, account structures, but they're encrypted, hidden, protected. We've been running on what we could figure out, but there are assets we can't access. And you think I can? I think your father might have left clues meant for his daughters, something only family would recognize. Dominic pulled out a thick folder. If there's anything that sparks a memory, you want me to break into my dead father's encrypted files to help you win a mob war. Ella said it flatly. I want you to help us survive, Dominic corrected. The resources in those accounts could be the difference between winning and losing, between living and dying. Ella took the folder with trembling hands. Inside were pages of numbers, codes, references to businesses she'd never heard of. Then she saw it, a notation in her father's handwriting. Sarah's birthday, Ella's favorite song, the year we lost her. This, Ella whispered, pointing. This is personal. The year we lost her. That's when my mother died. 2012. Dominic leaned closer. Can you decode it? Maybe. Sarah's birthday is March 15th. My favorite song as a kid was Somewhere Over the Rainbow. My mother died in 2012. Ella felt tears prick her eyes. He left me a message. After all this time. Over the next hours, Ella worked through files, Dominic beside her. Slowly patterns emerged. Her father had used family memories, personal details, private jokes as encryption keys. Every password was a love letter to his daughters. Here, Ella said finally, voice hoarse, this account. It's registered to a shell company called Bennett and Daughters Trust. The access code is, she tried combinations. It's my mother's full name and the date my parents got married. The screen changed, revealing account balances that made Ella's breath catch. Millions, tens of millions. Jesus, Marco breathed, looking over their shoulders. That's enough to fund a small war. Or end one, Dominic said quietly. His hand found Ella's shoulder. Your father was protecting his family even after death. He knew if anything happened to us, you'd need resources to disappear. Ella felt tears streaming. He knew how dangerous you were, what you did, and he still worked for you. He believed in loyalty, in family. Dominic turned her chair to face him. And he trusted me to protect you if something happened to him. That's why he encrypted everything to only be accessed by his daughters. He was making sure you'd always have a way out. But instead, I'm using it to help you fight. You don't have to. We could transfer all this to your name, set you up anywhere. No. Ella wiped her eyes. If my father trusted you enough to build this, then I trust you enough to help protect it. These accounts, use them. Win this war. Survive. Dominic pulled her into his arms, and Ella clung to him, crying for the father she'd lost, for the innocence she was shedding. When she pulled back, Dominic wiped her tears. You're remarkable. I'm terrified. Good. Fear keeps you smart. He kissed her forehead. But you're also brave, stronger than anyone I've known. Sweet talker, Ella managed a watery laugh. Only with you. The rest of the day was spent planning. Dominic made calls, moved money, activated contacts. By evening, the balance of power had shifted. The Castellano family was no longer on the defensive. That night, Ella found Dominic on the terrace, staring at city lights. You should be celebrating. You're winning. Not yet, but we're getting closer. He pulled her against him. You gave us that. You and your father's love for his family. Do you think he knew? That I'd end up here, with you? I think your father knew exactly who I was. And I think he trusted that if you ever entered my world, I'd protect you with my life. Dominic's lips brushed her temple. He wasn't wrong. Ella turned in his arms. What happens when this is over? What do you want to happen? I want... Ella paused. I want to not feel like I'm constantly waiting for disaster. I want to wake up next to you without wondering if it's the last time. I want normal. Normal isn't something I can give you. This life, my family, it's never going to be safe or simple. Then give me dangerous. Give me complicated. Give me you, Dominic. That's enough. He kissed her with an intensity that stole her breath. When they broke apart, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. I don't deserve you. Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway. They made love that night with desperation born of knowing how fragile their happiness was. Ella memorized every touch, every whispered word. If tomorrow brought disaster, at least she'd have this. But disaster was already in motion, set by hands neither suspected. 3 floors below, someone made a phone call in whispered Russian. The real betrayal hadn't been Vincent or the other informants. Those were distractions. The real traitor was someone they both trusted completely. And tomorrow, that betrayal would bear its terrible fruit. The compound erupted at 4 in the morning. Ella woke to Dominic already out of bed, pulling on clothes, grabbing weapons from a safe she hadn't known existed. Stay here, he ordered, voice clipped and cold. What's happening? Breach, they're inside. He shoved a gun into her hands. Remember what I taught you. Ella's fingers closed around the weapon, steadier than expected. Yesterday, Dominic had taken her to the shooting range, insisting she learn. She'd protested, but he'd been adamant. Now she understood why. Safety off, aim center mass, squeeze don't pull, she recited. Good girl. He kissed her hard. Lock this door. Don't open it for anyone but me or Marco. And if someone gets through, I shoot them. Ella finished. I know. After he left, Ella locked the door and pressed her back against it, gun heavy in her hands, heart hammering. Downstairs, she could hear shouts, gunfire, violence. Minutes crawled. Ella moved to the window, carefully peering out. The compound grounds were lit up, security lights blazing. She could see figures moving, some in Castellano tactical gear, others in dark clothes with military-grade weapons. The Volkovs had come in force. A massive explosion rocked the building, throwing Ella to the floor. Glass shattered, the window exploding inward. She covered her head, feeling cuts open on her arms. When she looked up, smoke was pouring in. "Dominic," she whispered, terror gripping her. Ella made it to the door before footsteps pounded in the hallway, running, urgent. She pressed her ear to the wood. "Ella Bennett," a voice called out in heavily accented English. "We know you're in there. Come out and you won't be hurt. Stay inside and we burn the building." Ella's blood turned to ice. The Volkovs had come for her specifically. 5 seconds, the voice called. "Then we blow the door." Ella looked around frantically. The room had one exit, the door they were about to breach. The windows were too high to jump. She was trapped. Unless. She remembered Dominic mentioning a panic room. Ella ran to the walk-in closet, pushing aside clothes, searching. Her fingers found a seam in the wall, pressed, and a section swung inward, revealing a reinforced steel room barely big enough to stand in. Ella squeezed inside, just as the bedroom door exploded. Through the crack in the closet door, she watched 3 men enter, weapons raised. They were methodical, professional, checking every corner. One headed straight for the closet. Ella held her breath, finger on the trigger, praying they wouldn't find the panic room entrance. The man ripped clothes aside, his flashlight sweeping. For a heart-stopping moment, his light paused on the seam. Then his radio crackled, a harsh Russian voice demanding he report to the main floor. The man cursed and left. Ella waited 5 agonizing minutes before creeping out. The bedroom was destroyed, furniture overturned, glass everywhere, smoke getting stronger. She had to get out, had to find Dominic. The hallway was chaos. Bodies lay on the floor. Some she recognized as Castellano men, others she didn't. Ella moved carefully, gun raised. She found Marco first, slumped against a wall, his good arm pressed against his side where blood seeped through. "Ella," he coughed, "what are you doing out here?" "Looking for Dominic. Where is he?" "First floor, main entrance. They're pinned down." Marco grimaced. "Volkovs hit us with 50 men. Inside job. Someone disabled the perimeter alarms." "Who?" "Don't know yet." He coughed harder. "You need to get out. There's an escape tunnel in the wine cellar. I'm not leaving without Dominic." "Stubborn woman," Marco muttered. "Fine. Help me up. We're going to end this." Together, they made their way downstairs. The compound's first floor was a war zone. Castellano forces had barricaded behind furniture, trading fire with Volkovs entrenched in the opposite wing. Ella could see Dominic near the main entrance, commanding his men, looking fierce and terrifying. Then she saw the Volkov soldier creeping around the side, weapon raised, lining up a shot at Dominic's unprotected back. Ella didn't think. She raised her gun and fired. The recoil surprised her, the sound deafening. The Volkov soldier dropped. Ella stared, shocked by what she'd done. Dominic's head snapped around. When he saw her standing there, gun still raised, his expression cycled through shock, fury, and something that might have been pride. "Get down!" he roared, and Ella dove behind an overturned couch just as return fire tore through the space she'd been standing. Dominic was beside her seconds later, hands on her face, checking for injuries. "What the hell are you doing down here?" "Saving your life, apparently. I told you to stay upstairs. They came for me, specifically. They were going to burn the building." Ella met his eyes. "I wasn't going to hide while you died protecting me." Dominic opened his mouth to argue, then seemed to realize the futility. Instead, he kissed her fiercely. "You're going to give me a heart attack. Get in line." A lull in gunfire gave them a moment. "We need to fall back," one of Dominic's men reported. "They're bringing in reinforcements." "How many?" "At least 20 more vehicles spotted." Dominic cursed in Italian. "Everyone to the wine cellar. We evacuate through the tunnel." He looked at Ella. "That means you too. No arguments." But before they could move, a voice cut through the chaos. "Dominic Castellano, we can end this now. You and me. One-on-one. Winner takes everything. Territory, operations, the girl. Loser dies." A man stepped into view, tall, broad-shouldered, with ice-blue eyes and a predator's smile. Alexei Volkov, head of the Russian family. "You can't trust him," Marco hissed. "It's a trap." "Of course it's a trap," Dominic agreed. But he stood anyway, holstering his weapon. "I accept." "Dominic, no." Ella grabbed his arm. He pulled her close, handcuffing her face. "I need you to trust me. Get to the tunnel with everyone else. If I don't come back, you're coming back. If I don't," he continued firmly, "Marco has instructions. Money, new identity, protection. You'll be safe." "I don't want to be safe without you," Ella said, tears streaming. "Too bad. Because keeping you safe is the only thing that matters." He kissed her one more time. "I love you, Ella Bennett. Remember that." Before she could respond, he was walking toward Alexei Volkov, and Ella's world narrowed to those two men circling each other like wolves. "Get her out of here," Dominic ordered without looking back. Marco pulled Ella away, but she couldn't stop watching as Dominic and Alexei began to fight. Brutal, efficient, no rules. They were trying to kill each other. "Please," Ella whispered. "Please let him survive." The tunnel was dark and damp, filled with Castellano soldiers and staff fleeing. Ella was pushed along in the crowd, losing sight of Marco. When they emerged in an underground garage, cars were already racing away. Ella stood frozen, unable to make herself leave without knowing if Dominic had won or lost. "Miss Bennett," Tony appeared. "We need to go." "Not without Dominic." "Ma'am, the boss gave specific orders." A car squealed into the garage, driving recklessly. It skidded to a stop, and Marco fell out of the driver's side, blood-soaked. In the passenger seat was Dominic, face battered, shoulder bleeding, but alive. Gloriously, impossibly alive. Ella ran to him, pulling open the door, hands everywhere checking for fatal injuries. "You're okay. You're okay." "We need to move," Dominic said, voice hoarse. "Alexei's dead, but his men are coming. They'll want revenge." Tony helped get them into another car, an armored SUV. As they sped away, Ella watched through the rear window as flames consumed the compound. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Dominic pulled her against him with his good arm. "It's just a house. Buildings can be rebuilt. You can't." He kissed the top of her head. "You saved my life back there. That Volkov soldier would have killed me. I told you. We protect each other." "So you did." They drove for an hour, winding through back roads until they reached a safe house in the Catskills, a cabin so remote it didn't appear on maps. Marco had passed out in the back, injuries severe. Dominic called in a doctor who asked no questions. While the doctor worked on Marco, Ella cleaned and bandaged Dominic's wounds. "How did you beat him, Alexei?" "He was arrogant. Thought his size would give him the advantage." Dominic winced. "He forgot that in this business, you survive by being willing to do whatever it takes. Is it over? Really over? The Volkovs are broken. Without Alexei, they'll fracture, fight among themselves." He caught her hand. "But there will always be another threat. That's the life I'm offering you, Ella. Constant danger. Are you sure this is what you want?" Ella thought about the terror of the last hours, the violence, the man she'd killed. She thought about her old life. Safe, boring, predictable, and she thought about the way Dominic looked at her, like she was his whole world. "I want you," she said simply. "Everything else is just details." Dominic pulled her into his lap. careful of his injuries, and kissed her with a tenderness that belied the violence of the night. "Then you have me, for better or worse." "For better or worse," Ella agreed. But neither knew the greatest revelation was still to come, a truth that would reframe everything about their connection, about fate, and about the night a photograph had changed both their lives forever. The safe house became their sanctuary for the next week. Marco recovered slowly. Dominic worked the phones constantly, consolidating power, rebuilding his empire from the ashes. Ella existed in a strange limbo, not quite belonging to the criminal world, but no longer part of the civilian one. She cooked meals with supplies Tony brought, changed bandages, and watched Dominic transform from the controlled boss to someone rawer, more vulnerable. On the 8th night, after Marco had been moved to a private hospital, Ella found Dominic on the cabin's porch, staring at stars. "Penny, for your thoughts," she said, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "I've been thinking about your father." Dominic didn't look at her. "About the night he died." Ella's heart clenched. "He had pancreatic cancer. It was quick. That's what we told everyone, what we told you and Sarah." Dominic's voice was carefully neutral. "But that's not the whole truth." Ice slid down Ella's spine. "What do you mean?" "Your father did have cancer, but that's not what killed him." Dominic finally turned to face her. "He was murdered, Ella. By the Volkovs, in the early stages of a territory war we thought we'd contained." Ella felt the world tilt. "No, I was there when he died. In the hospital. It was peaceful. You were there when he finally succumbed to the poison they'd given him weeks earlier. Slow acting, designed to look like natural causes. By the time we figured it out, it was too late." Dominic's expression was anguished. "My father made the call not to tell you girls. He thought it would be easier." "Easier?" Ella's voice rose. "You let me believe my father died of natural causes when he was murdered? How is that easier?" "Because if you'd known, you would have become targets. The Volkovs would have assumed you'd want revenge. They would have killed you both." Dominic reached for her, but Ella stepped back. "Your father made us promise. His dying words were instructions to keep you and Sarah safe. And yet here I am." Ella laughed bitterly. "Right in the middle of it. Did you know? When you hired me, did you know who I was?" "Yes." The admission hung between them like a blade. "I knew exactly who you were. Daughter of Jack Bennett, one of the best men I've ever known. I hired you because I owed your father a debt I could never repay." Dominic's jaw was tight. "I never expected to fall in love with you. That part wasn't calculated." Ella felt tears streaming. "Was any of it real? The way you looked at me? All of it was real," Dominic said fiercely. "The attraction, the desire, the love, that was all real. I fought it because I knew what it meant." He stepped toward her. "That photo you sent? I stared at it for hours, trying to understand why this one woman made me feel things I'd sworn I'd never feel again." "Because you felt guilty about my father?" "No, because you were genuine. In a world full of people wearing masks, you were exactly who you appeared to be." Dominic closed the distance. "I fell in love with you despite knowing I shouldn't. Despite knowing your father would probably come back from the dead to kill me for it." Ella wanted to be angry, wanted to rage at the deception, but underneath was a more complicated truth. Dominic had been trying to protect her, just like her father had asked. "Did you know?" she asked quietly. "About the hidden accounts? Did you hire me hoping I'd unlock them?" "No. I didn't know they existed until we found your father's encryption. That was pure luck. Or fate." "What do I believe in?" Ella whispered. "I don't know anymore." Dominic cupped her face. "Believe in this. Believe in us. Everything else, the circumstances, the timing, the secrets, that's all just noise. My father died because of your war, because of your world." "Yes," Dominic agreed, not flinching. "And I will carry that guilt for the rest of my life. But Ella, your father knew the risks. He chose to work for us, chose to be part of this world." "And what about me? What might it cost me?" "Everything," Dominic said honestly. Being with me could cost you everything. I can't promise you security. I can only promise that I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe. Ella closed her eyes, feeling the weight of impossible choices. She could walk away now, use the money to disappear, or she could stay, knowing the risks. I need time, she said finally, to process this, all of it. Take all the time you need. Dominic pressed a kiss to her forehead. But know this, I love you, Ella Bennett. Not because of your father, not because of guilt, but because you're the bravest, most stubborn, most remarkable woman I've ever met. Ella spent the night alone, thoughts churning. She called Sarah, who was still in Chicago, safe and ignorant. Part of Ella wanted to tell her everything, but a larger part wanted to protect Sarah from this ugliness. In the morning, Ella found Dominic in the kitchen, making coffee awkwardly. "We need to talk," she said. He turned, expression guarded. "All right. I've made a decision." Ella took a deep breath. "I'm staying, but not because I've forgiven you, not yet. I'm staying because, despite everything, I love you." Hope flickered in Dominic's eyes. "Ella, I'm not finished. If we're going to do this, no more secrets, no more protecting me by keeping me in the dark. You treat me like a partner, or this ends. Understood?" "Understood. And we find out who really killed my father. Not the Volkovs as an organization, but which specific person. I deserve to know." "We will," Dominic promised. "I'll dedicate whatever resources necessary." Ella moved closer into his arms. "I'm furious with you. For lying, for keeping this from me. I know. You have every right. But I also understand why you did it. And I think my father would have made the same choice." She pulled back to look at him. "Just don't do it again." "You're strong enough to handle anything," Dominic agreed. He kissed her softly. "I'm sorry, Ella, for all of it. I know, and eventually I'll fully forgive you. But for now, you're going to have to work for it." A small smile tugged at his lips. "I can do that." The investigation took 3 days. Dominic's contacts provided names, dates, methods. The truth, when it emerged, was both expected and surprising. The hit had been ordered by Alexei Volkov himself, carried out by a contract killer who'd since retired. But the information about Jack Bennett's importance, the intelligence that had made him a target, that had come from within the Castellano organization, from someone Ella had trusted. "Martha?" Ella whispered, staring at the evidence in disbelief. "The housekeeper. Not the Martha at the compound. A different woman, also named Martha, who worked for your father before the compound was built. She'd been feeding information to the Volkovs for years." Dominic's expression was grim. "After your father's death, she disappeared. We thought she'd just quit. We didn't know she was the leak until after the compound attack." Ella felt sick. "Where is she now?" "Dead. Killed by the Volkovs after the attack. Apparently they don't appreciate failures." Dominic pulled Ella close. "I know it's not the justice you wanted." "No," Ella agreed. "But at least now I know the truth. At least there are no more secrets between us." But she was wrong. There was one more secret, one final revelation that would change everything. And it would come from the most unexpected source, hidden in the code of her father's encrypted files, waiting to be discovered. The discovery came 3 weeks later when Ella was reviewing financial records, ensuring all of her father's accounts had been properly transferred and documented. She was deep in spreadsheets when she noticed something odd, a pattern in the encryption keys that didn't match the others. "Dominic," she called from the study they'd set up in the new safe house. "Come look at this." He appeared in the doorway, coffee in hand. "What did you find?" "There's another layer, hidden beneath the accounts we already accessed." Ella pointed to the screen. "See this? My father embedded a secondary encryption using a completely different algorithm. It's brilliant. Anyone who found the first accounts would think they'd found everything. Can you break it?" Ella's fingers flew across the keyboard. "He's using the same method, personal details. But these are different, more specific." She paused, studying the code. "Wait, this isn't about me or Sarah. These references are about you. Dominic set down his coffee, moving closer. What? Look. The year the heir was born. The name his mother chose. The hospital where it happened. Ella turned to look at him. These are all about you, Dominic. Why would my father encrypt information using details about your birth? A chill ran through the room. Dominic stared at the screen, his expression unreadable. Try 1989, Manhattan General, and my middle name is Vincenzo. Ella entered the information. The screen flickered, then opened to reveal a single document, a letter written by her father addressed to both of them. My dearest Ella and Dominic, if you're reading this together, it means my worst fears have been realized. I'm gone, and somehow, despite all my efforts to keep you safe, you've become involved with each other. I need to tell you something I've carried alone for 20 years. Something that will change how you see everything. The reason I've watched over you, Dominic, with such care all these years. The reason I built financial systems specifically designed to protect both the Castellano family and my daughters. The reason I encrypted the most important information to be accessible only by both of you, working together. Dominic, when your mother came to me 25 years ago, she was desperate. She discovered evidence that Antonio was sterile, a war injury from his youth that he'd hidden from everyone, including her. She needed an heir to secure the family's future, but she couldn't let anyone know Antonio couldn't father children. I was her accountant, her confidant, someone she trusted. And yes, for one brief moment, we were more. It was wrong, it was complicated, but it happened. Ella's hands shook as she continued reading. But Dominic, you are not my biological son. The DNA test your mother and I conducted after you were born proved that conclusively. Antonio is your biological father. The injury hadn't made him completely sterile, just extremely unlikely to conceive naturally. Your birth was a miracle, not an affair. So why am I telling you this now? Why encrypt this information? Because I need you both to understand something crucial. The Volkovs know about that DNA test. They've had the information for years, waiting for the right moment to use it as leverage. They'll claim Dominic isn't a legitimate Castellano heir, that he has no right to lead the family. That's why I built these financial systems specifically to require both of you. If the Volkovs try to use that DNA test to destroy Dominic's legitimacy, you can counter by showing that the family's financial empire, the true source of power, is controlled jointly by the rightful Castellano heir and the daughter of the man who built that empire. You're not related by blood, but you are bound together by something far more powerful, by the protection I tried to give you both, by the enemies who want to destroy you, and by the truth that sometimes family is defined not by DNA but by the choices we make to protect each other. If you found love in each other, you have my blessing. In fact, I hoped for it. Two people I loved more than life itself, finding strength in each other. Ella, your mother never knew about any of this. She died believing I was faithful, and that's how I want her remembered. Dominic, your father, and yes, Antonio is your father in every way that matters, never knew I ran that DNA test. As far as he knows, you're his biological son without question. And you are. Protect each other. Build something better than what I left behind. And forgive me for the secrets I had to keep. With love, Jack Bennett, Ella, and Dominic stood in stunned silence, the letter's words reverberating through the room. Ella couldn't finish the sentence. He created an entire financial structure to protect us both, from a threat we didn't even know existed. Dominic's voice was rough. The Volkovs could have used that DNA test information to tear my family apart, but your father made sure that if they tried, we'd have leverage to counter. So you're not... Ella felt relief wash through her. We're not related. Not even a little bit. No. Dominic turned to her, his hands cupping her face. We're not. Your father made absolutely sure of that before he ever orchestrated our meeting. He orchestrated it? Ella's eyes widened. You think he planned for us to meet? I think your father was the smartest man I've ever known, and I think he knew that if anything happened to him, the best way to protect both his daughters and the Castellano family was to bind us together. Dominic's thumb brushed her cheek. But he also knew he couldn't force it. He could only create the opportunity. Ella thought about the photo she'd accidentally sent, about how her father had encrypted files that specifically required her and Dominic to work together to access, about how every step of their journey had brought them closer together. My father was playing matchmaker from beyond the grave, she said, half laughing, half crying. Apparently. Dominic pulled her into his arms. Does it change anything, knowing that we were pushed together? No, Ella said firmly, because we could have been pushed together and still chosen to walk away. We stayed because of who we are, not because of what he planned. I love you, Ella Bennett. That's the one thing I know is real, regardless of how we met. I love you too. She pulled back to look at him. But we need to tell your family. About the DNA test, about the threat. If the Volkovs knew, others might too. We will, together. Dominic kissed her softly. Because that's what partners do. Over the next weeks, they revealed everything to the Castellano family. Antonio was shocked by the DNA test revelation, then relieved to know definitively that Dominic was his biological son. The family lawyers were brought in to ensure the financial structures Jack Bennett had created were legally binding. And through it all, Ella and Dominic grew stronger together, not because fate had pushed them, but because they chose each other every day. The revelation that came next, however, would test that choice in ways neither expected. 2 months after discovering Jack Bennett's letter, Ella woke in the new compound, rebuilt on different land, with better security, to find Dominic already gone. A note on his pillow. Meeting with the commission, back tonight. I love you. D. The commission. A gathering of all 5 New York crime families to discuss territory, disputes, and power structures. Dominic had been preparing for weeks, knowing his legitimacy would be challenged, knowing others would try to seize the vacuum left by the Volkov collapse. Ella spent the day restless, unable to focus. Marco found her in the garden around noon, his arm finally healed. He'll be fine, Marco said, sitting beside her on a bench. Dom's been preparing for this his whole life. What if they challenge him? What if someone knows about the DNA test? Then he shows them what your father built. Shows them that questioning Dominic's legitimacy means losing access to the financial empire that funds half the families in New York. Marco smiled. Your father was a genius. He made Dominic unchallengeable. By binding him to me. By giving you both power. Together, you're stronger than any single family. Marco paused. You know what you are now, right? To the other families? Dominic's woman. More than that. You're the keeper of the keys. The one who controls access to the money. That makes you one of the most powerful people in New York's underworld. Marco's expression grew serious. They're going to come after you, Ella. Not with bullets, with offers, alliances, promises. They'll try to turn you against Dominic, or buy you, or seduce you away. That won't work? I know, but you need to be prepared. Marco stood. The life you've chosen. It's not going to get easier. It's going to get more complicated, more dangerous. Are you ready for that? Ella thought about everything she'd survived. The attack on the compound, killing a man to save Dominic, discovering her father's secrets. She thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, terrified of an accidental photo. That woman felt like a stranger now. I'm ready, she said. I'm not the same person I was. No, Marco agreed. You're not. You're stronger, harder, more dangerous. He smiled. Dom's lucky to have you. Dominic returned at 8 that evening, looking exhausted but victorious. It's done, he said, pulling Ella into his arms. The commission recognized my leadership, all 5 families. What about the DNA test? Did anyone bring it up? Salvatore De Luca tried. Said he had information that could question my legitimacy. Dominic's smile was sharp. I told him to present it. When he mentioned the DNA test, I presented the financial records. Showed them exactly how much money flows through the systems Jack Bennett built. Asked them if they were willing to lose access to those resources over a 20-year-old test that proved I am Antonio Castellano's biological son. What did they say? They said the matter was closed, that my legitimacy was unquestionable. Dominic cupped her face. Your father gave me armor, Ella. He protected me before I even knew I needed protection. He protected both of us. Yes. And now we get to decide what to do with that protection. Dominic pulled a small box from his pocket. Which brings me to this. Ella's breath caught as he opened the box to reveal a ring. Not a traditional engagement ring, but something unique. Two bands intertwined, creating something stronger together than apart. I know we can't have a traditional marriage announcement. I know my world makes everything complicated. But I want you to know that you're my partner in every way that matters. Dominic took the ring out. Ella Bennett, will you build this empire with me? Will you stand beside me? Not as my assistant or my girlfriend, but as my equal? Ella felt tears streaming down her face. Are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking you to be my partner in crime, literally. Dominic's smile was crooked. The ceremony will have to be private. The announcement will have to be careful. But yes, I'm asking you to marry me. Yes, Ella said, pulling him down for a kiss. Yes, to all of it. He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like everything else between them, complicated but right. They married 3 weeks later in a private ceremony, with only Marco and Sarah as witnesses. Sarah had finally made peace with Ella's choices, recognizing that her sister had found something rare and precious in the chaos. I don't understand it, Sarah had said the night before the wedding. But I can see you're happy, so I'm happy for you. It was enough. The reception was held at the new compound, with all 5 family heads in attendance, a show of solidarity, of acceptance. Ella wore white, Dominic wore black, and for one night, the violence and danger of their world fell away. What are you thinking? Dominic asked as they danced, the first time Ella had seen him truly relaxed in months. I'm thinking about that photo, about how one stupid accident changed everything. Best mistake you ever made. Mine too, Ella agreed. Then she smiled. Want to know a secret? Always. It wasn't an accident. Dominic stopped dancing, pulling back to look at her. What? The photo. I meant to send it to you. Ella's smile widened at his shocked expression. I'd been working for you for 3 months, watching you, wanting you. That night, I took the photo and I thought, what if I just sent it? What if I took the chance? So I did. And then I panicked and pretended it was an accident. You... Dominic stared at her. You deliberately sent me that photo? I did, and you lied about deleting it. So really, we're both guilty of manipulation from the start. Ella laughed at his expression. Are you angry? Angry? Dominic pulled her closer, his eyes blazing. I'm impressed. You played me from the beginning. I learned from the best. Yes, Dominic agreed, kissing her deeply. You did. Later that night, as they lay together in their new bedroom, Ella thought about the journey that had brought them here. It had started with a calculated risk disguised as an accident. It had grown through danger and violence and impossible choices. And it had ended, or rather begun, with 2 people choosing each other despite every reason they shouldn't. Dominic? Ella said into the darkness. No regrets? Not one. His arms tightened around her. You? Not a single one. And it was true. Ella had walked away from safety, from normalcy, from every sensible choice. She'd chosen danger, chosen complication, chosen a man whose world was built on violence and power. But she'd also chosen love. Real, fierce, uncompromising love. The kind that didn't fit into neat categories or follow society's rules. The kind that was worth fighting for, worth killing for, worth building an empire around. 3 years later, Ella stood in Dominic's office, their office now, reviewing financial reports. The empire had grown, expanded, become more powerful than ever. And she was at the center of it, not as a trophy or a figurehead, but as a true partner. Mrs. Castellano, Marco said, poking his head in. The Shanghai delegation is here. Send them to the conference room. I'll be there in 5 minutes. After Marco left, Dominic emerged from the adjoining office. Ready to terrify some Chinese businessman? Always, Ella replied, straightening her jacket. She caught sight of herself in the window's reflection. Poised, powerful, dangerous. The woman she'd become. You know what I love about you? Dominic said, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. What? You sent me that photo on purpose. You knew exactly what you were doing. You decided you wanted me, and you went after what you wanted. He kissed her neck. You're exactly like me. That's why we work. Ella turned in his arms. Manipulative and dangerous? Strategic and fearless, Dominic corrected. We built this together. An empire that's stronger than any single family because it's built on partnership, not hierarchy. My father would be proud. He would be. Dominic kissed her softly. He orchestrated our meeting, but you engineered our connection. That photo wasn't fate. It was choice. Your choice. And that, Ella thought as they walked together to the conference room, was the real truth of their story. Not a romance born from accident or destiny, but from deliberate choice. She'd chosen to send the photo. He'd chosen to keep it. They'd chosen each other, again and again, through violence and danger and impossible circumstances. Love wasn't fate in their world. It was strategy, risk, calculated gamble, and they'd both wagered everything on each other. Some would call that foolish. Others would call it beautiful. Ella called it victory. If you enjoy stories like this, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. That's how I'll know you truly liked it. Even if you're watching on your TV, grab a second to join this family of fans who love emotional and heartfelt stories. Your support means everything, and it helps us bring you even more tales like this one.